Good afternoon, and welcome to Jeff and the Rabbi. You know, Rabbi, living in today's progressive world is unbelievably confusing. It's like watching WWF wrestling. You're a big wrestling fan, right, Rabbi? I'm sure you are. Sure, I know you would be. The alliances, the enemies, even the characteristics of the combatants change on a monthly or maybe even daily basis. This week, Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage are the good guys fighting the bad Nature Boy Ric Flair and the Iron Sheik. Next week, Ric Flair is the virtuous warrior taking on the wicked, nefarious Undertaker. Just like a few years ago, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Harry Reid all were fighting against illegal aliens crossing the border and taking jobs from impoverished Americans. And now, according to the same nouveau enlightened assemblage, anyone who wants protective borders is a racist. Yesterday, if you lifted the seat while urinating, you were a man. If you plucked your eyebrows and went to the bathroom in groups, you were a woman. It was that simple. Today, I just have to raise my hand and identify, and I can be golfing from the ladies' tee and tearing up watching The Devil Wears Prada on Netflix. Nothing is set in stone. It's not the killer's fault because he was bullied as a child and his father was a misogynist. Besides, the evil gun was way more culpable because it had so many bullets. The Torah view seems to be significantly different than the progressive view. Things are as God created them to be. Esau wasn't evil because some white kid in his class made fun of him because he was so hairy, or due to the fact that he smelled like the squirrel he just cooked. He was created evil by God because that's what he was supposed to be. God did not make a mistake by making the Jew Levi Strauss a man. If he wanted him to be a woman, he would have changed his genes. Get that? Anyone?
Yeah.
Anyone? Anyone? Okay,
Good.
So anyway,
Matter of fact, that's the first thing I got from everything you said. Okay.
Listen,
God,
this was a different.
I'm glad I was able to come in with something here.
Please.
Okay.
So anyway, God has made a plan. He makes the rules. Progressives believe that everything can be altered or corrected based on what they want today. Trust them, they say. They know what's good and what's evil, not you people clinging to your religion. If I were only a betting man, I would choose God in this one. And I'd give you the points to cover the spread. Did I get any of that right, Rabbi, based on the topic you explained to me?
You know, I think so.
It was very confusing.
I'm really not sure. I tell you the truth.
Well, tell me where I went wrong, because I was really confused.
I don't think you went wrong.
Right.
But then again, I'm not sure.
Okay, good.
We got Jacob and Esau.
I got that part. I got Esau.
Okay, so we got these two brothers.
Right.
Let's start with that.
Okay.
We got this story that sets these two twins in the womb, and poor Rebecca is suffering from, she's just blowing apart because these two, and she goes to inquire of God, and she's told that she's carrying two different nations inside of her, and they're at war with each other. Very cute story. And then they're born, and one of them comes out like a little werewolf, little baby werewolves. That's the thing about those werewolves. You know, when they're babies, they're so cute.
Yeah, they always say that.
They grow up and
little hairy, but they're cute.
Right. All right. And then you've got Jacob, and he comes out, and he's all, cuckoo, and he's nice and fair and everything.
Normal looking kid.
Probably had a little blonde tuft of hair, curly on top, with a little clip in it and all that. So the two of them are different from the womb, and they go on to represent two different ideologies, two different forces in the world. They clash with each other. Afterwards they have the stealing of the blessings, and they're at odds with each other forevermore. That's the bottom line. But what we get from this story is something a little deeper here. What we get from this story is that these two were already at odds with each other in the womb. If they were at odds with each other in the womb, that seems to indicate that the natures of the two were fixed.
Oh, wait a minute, I said that.
Yeah?
Okay.
There you go.
I got one.
There you go.
Okay, good.
And that means that there could be such a thing as an absolute nature. Let's think about it.
Okay.
What it means is that Esau is Esau before he was even born. It doesn't mean it was because of circumstances and the neighborhood he was raised in and his all events that happened in socioeconomic and his parents and all this type of stuff. It means that he is what he is. And then there's Jacob, and he is what he is. Now, of course, each of them have their challenges within their structure, but they are what they are. And as a matter of fact, they go on to be actually pitted against each other, because in the blessings that they get from Isaac,
Right.
Isaac says, you both cannot be up at the same time. You are at odds with each other. Only when he's down will you be up, and vice versa. So that means there's no real reconciliation. They can't just come to understand each
Nothing
other.
they could have done.
There will never be a kumbaya moment between Jacob and Esau.
Wow.
Only Esau's gone, then there's Jacob. Or vice versa. If Esau's up, Jacob is down.
Wow.
In the end, Esau has to be gone for Jacob to be up. But it's even broader than this. What this tells us, like to get away from the story of Jacob and Esau for a minute, this tells us something very fundamental. That we believe in a certain amount of determinism of human nature. There are laws of human nature. I'll give you another good example. The emperor said to, the Romans said to Rabbi Akiva, why is there poverty? Why are there poor people?
Right.
Rabbi Akiva said, God made poor people so that the rich people could give charity. Now that's interesting. That means God made poor people. And there will always be poor people because there's a mitzvah to give charity. And if there's a mitzvah to give charity, then it means there will always be poor people. Which means if you come up with a great idea, such as, we're going to eradicate poverty, maybe you want to redistribute the wealth, but I don't know what your plan is.
Sounds more like it, yeah.
But we're going to eradicate poverty in our lifetime or by the year, or whatever it is. It's not going to happen because there is a built-in factor in the world called poverty. There are poor people. Poor people are a fact of nature, and there will always be a certain number of poor people. There are other things that the Torah talks about. We spoke about Ishmael. Ishmael is the way Ishmael is. Men are a certain way, and women are a different way.
I'm going to have to stop you there.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to
just
stop
crossed
you
the
there.
line there, right?
Rabbi, it's usually me. You have to worry about me.
Yeah.
Now I have to worry about you. My reputation here
right.
is
Here we go.
going to be in trouble.
I
now.
really bought it on that one,
I mean,
right?
Please.
Yeah, so we got this story about Adam and Eve, and it sets certain things in motion that the Eves are always going to be Eves and the Adams are going to be Adams.
So you're saying then that Bruce Jenner could not have competed in the women's shot put event at the time. Because, so pretty much he was made to compete in that event right there, in the men's tryout.
So there are things that are true of women and men, certain rules. Now, all I'm saying is that when we have problems, let's say poverty is a problem.
Yeah.
How do you go about dealing with it? So do you deal with it? And this is, let's say, for example, the Torah way.
Right.
The Torah accepts that there will be poverty.
Right.
The Torah says, but who says you have to be poor? So therefore, rather than trying to eradicate poverty from the world by perhaps coming up with some great, huge social idea of redistributing the wealth and we'll make communism or we'll cure poverty once and for all, maybe I should work on how this guy stops being poor.
That sounds a little bit more logical to me.
So that's where it would take different approaches. Or if we are going to try to eradicate anti-Semitism, but the Torah says that Esau is Esau. This is a fact of life. It's always going to be there. Whatever cause you think you found, that's not the cause. Matter of fact, it might be just the opposite. Because there's anti-Semitism, like you say, well, it's all the hate speech led to this anti-Semitism. No, it might be just the opposite. It might be there's anti-Semitism, and the hate speech finds its way to express the anti-Semitism.
Right.
Hitler didn't come about because of the embarrassment of the Versailles Treaty and the wanting to straighten things out. There might have been a Versailles Treaty that led to embarrassment, which allows a Hitler anti-Semite to capitalize on that and become and express himself. So we'll take a different look at things. But I want to take it even a step further.
Okay.
So the progressive agenda says that there are not people are not locked into any type of definition. There isn't an absolute human nature. There can always be a cause, and if we find the cause, we fix the cause or change the cause, you can change the person.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's there's nothing absolute. Doesn't matter who you are, where you came from. There's no such thing as the nature of an Arab versus the nature of a Jew or anything like that. Okay, or a man, woman, colors, difference, nothing. Okay, we believe that there are. Now, let's take it a step further. The modern Western thought would say that there are immutable laws of physical nature. Such as?
That's where you lost me when you told me this morning.
Well, if the sea cannot split.
Okay. Now
Seas don't split. Right? And if you tell me a story where the sea split, I'll tell you that either it's a made-up story, it can't be for real, or something happened that you interpreted as a sea split.
Well, we're going to get confused here because you're correct, they say that, but they do say flash-lating clouds could cause the temperature to rise and destroy the Earth.
Yeah,
so I do get a little confused. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I would tell you, it's very interesting. It is very interesting that as much as they say that there is nature, and that nature can't be changed, it is very interesting that they do believe, in certain exceptions, when the two ideas clash. Like, where's an idea where the two clash?
Oh, I can tell you that. Well, we have to take care of the Muslims, except when they throw the gay people off the roof, then we got a clashing situation.
Or how about gender?
How
about gender?
Absolutely.
Right, where this is a human nature and a physical nature. So physical nature can't be changed, but if it clashes with human nature, then I think it can be changed. So it's so interesting that our Torah approach is, we don't have any problem with physical nature changing. Throw him in the fiery furnace and he can come out alive. If God wants him to come out alive, he'll come out alive. If God wants the sea to split, it'll split, and water to come out of a rock, and on and on and on. You name it. Whatever God wants. God wants this man to all of a sudden become wealthy, he'll become wealthy. No explanation for it, no explanation. This man to become poor, all of a sudden he'll be poor. No explanation, no explanation. Whatever God wants a donkey to talk, he'll talk. Don't talk. And there's no limitations in the physical world, but there are limitations in the laws of human nature. The progressive is exactly the opposite. There are limitations, there are immutable laws of the physical world that cannot ever be changed, but there are no laws in the realm of human nature. So the two agendas are not only at odds on the human nature issue, they're at odds on the physical nature issue also. So they're exact opposites of each other.
Wow. What I'm more confused about any is I can't decide if you're racist or homophobe or misogynist. I mean, I don't even know where to go now. I'm so confused.
Everything.
I mean, by the end of the show, I'll probably change my mind. You'll be another istophobe. Istophobe.
Yeah.
You can be one or the other. I'm so confused now.
But certain things, physically, change, yeah, sure.
Change anything.
Why not? God wants to change it, he can change it. I mean, the bottom line is, it all goes back to, is it a God-centered world? If it's a God-centered world, then God can make laws of human nature, which he can express through the Torah, such as, it is known, Esau hates Jacob. It's a law. Can't be fixed. We can't sit them down and have them talk it all through and come to understand. If they only learn better laws of listening and just listening and feeling and trying to put yourself in the other one's spot, there's many times that will help, but there are times that it won't help and it can help. Why not? Because the Torah said so. On the other hand, there'll be physical rules. They can be changed. Why? Because the Torah said so. So it's very interesting how those two agendas, we have our human nature agenda, physical agenda, and they can't ever change. Yeah.
No, it's interesting because you're going to have a lot of people disagreeing with you. I mean, actually, most, like I said, they've called you, our fans here, I'm sure they've called you multiple different names. Obviously, like most shows, I'm the good guy on the show, and the rabbi, he goes off the edge, like most of the episodes we have. But it is confusing in today's world because it's the exact opposite. And if you say, what you just did say, you could have problems. You could cause a lot of problems because we can change anything. That's what's so good. We can change anything in human nature.
Right.
We can because that's just how it works. But you're saying this way, there's supposed to be more people.
Right. I believe that the reason that this agenda or this philosophy, the philosophy of the Western philosophy, was created was as a backlash to my agenda, or according to the Torah's agenda. It's easily manipulatable, which means that I could say, oh, well, God said there should be poor people, so therefore you're poor, and therefore I'm not going to do anything about you. Or God said people are a certain way. For example, it says in the Torah that the woman will be subservient to her husband. Well, therefore we'll treat her like a simple maid or a slave. And the abuses of that, the abuses of things that it seems as though the Torah is giving license to, it's those abuses that led to the rise of an alternative system. I mean, after all, even Karl Marx, he didn't just wake up one day and think of it, hey, let's just redo all society and we'll remove money and we'll redistribute the wealth. It is because he looked around and he says, hey, it seems unfair that a few people are very, very rich and all these other people work so hard and yet they're poor. So there are injustices, they're viewed as injustices that people are trying to address, and that is where the agenda comes. But the agenda the Western agenda never takes into account whether the facts upon which it's based are facts.
Right.
So they start off as, it must be that everyone is equal, and everyone's the same, and everyone has equal opportunity, and everyone can do everything, and therefore the problem is people are greedy and they're suppressing other people.
Well, it might be also more of a narcissistic approach to it, because when you believe you are the top of the food chain and everywhere you go, you can change, you can correct, you can make that man who should be a woman, you can make, you can make these changes. It's probably more a narcissistic thing than there's a God out there that controls this. No, we control this.
No, and we do have tremendous amount of leeway. For example, people are poor. Well, we're supposed to, like Rabbi Akiva said, you're supposed to give charity. We can do a lot with our charitable acts to alleviate the suffering of the poor. Will there never be poor? No, there will always be poor. But a wealthy person should be dedicated to alleviating the poverty through his personal charity. That's his obligation. So on and on with many other things. People might be the way they are because they're given a certain nature, but we have obligations to treat people respectfully regardless of their nature, and everyone has obligations to treat everyone else regardless of their nature, not to take advantage. So that's the right way to do it. I think that the world saw that there were so many abuses, so many people taking advantage, that they created an entirly opposite worldview.
That's usually the way it works. Is usually, and when it gets too far extremist other way, you're going to have a lot more people going back to the religious side of things. That's usually how it works.
That's right.
Very, very interesting, and the problem with this is I think we're almost at the point where the good side is I think we're almost at the point where we've gone a little bit too far into the Western progressive philosophy. So maybe, according to what you just said, more people will go back to religion right now.
Yeah, I would be all for that. And it probably is what's happening right now. In other words, the state of affairs in America. I think recently a lot of people said, whoa, this is getting way out of hand. And then they went to the ballot box and voted to try to bring it back, from swinging way out there. Has it swung? No. I think the pendulum has still got a ways farther to go. Because I remember years ago, some of my rabbis were talking about, has it gotten as far as it could go? And I remember one of them saying that they thought it had gone as far as it could go, but my rabbi said, but I remember hearing my rabbi saying that they thought it had gone as far as it could go, and it went further. They said probably now it's going to go further too.
It's probably still going. I can't imagine what we'll be talking about in next year's show.
Yeah, right.
You guys might not even. It might be offensive.
Yeah.
Interesting.
No, it's not offensive.
Well, I think the great part about today's show is the rabbi was the more offensive person.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree maybe he can gain from maybe watching the Devil's Wear Spot a couple times.
I'm here to take a little heat off it, Jeff. Jeff always gets that.
And I feel bad.
I think that who knows? Next time I'm going to come here wearing a black shirt.
Yeah, that's true. But by the time we're at our 9th or 10th season, we might already be on our 11th, 12th season. I'll be the guy with the little CC's, faces and CC's ears. Yeah, that'll be happening. Well,
yeah,
much better.
Much better. All right, well, that was interesting. And you know where to write the letter, the emails to.
Yeah.
Right here. We'll see if you're still with us. We'll see you next week on Jeff and the Rabbi.